Hi, I'm Marius from MWS Photography, and welcome back to another episode of Digital Photography Today, the show where you will learn how to become the master of your camera. Now, today's episode is on night photography, and we're going to go out and take some car light trail pictures soon. But first, we need to discuss the gear that we are going to need, and as well a little bit about the settings and also the location where you shoot your pictures. Now, when we start with gear, there's not really a lot you need. You just need your camera mainly, and then you need a good tripod. Now, your tripod's your best buddy. If it's a solid tripod like this one, it's your very best buddy, because if it's windy where you're taking pictures and the tripod goes like this, your pictures are going to be shaky. Now, if you don't have a decent strong tripod and you find that your tripod is a little bit flimsy, what you can do is you just take a bag and put a rock in it, or brick or something, or put some sand in there, and then just basically just tie it against the tripod's legs so it supports the tripod a little better. If the tripod is very flimsy, don't make the bag too heavy, or it's going to break your tripod's legs or at least damage your tripod. So just adds a little bit more weight to the tripod. So if the wind is blowing, your camera isn't going like that. Okay, then the second thing you're going to need, and it's not a necessity, is if I can get it out, it's a cable release like this. So you plug it into the camera and you can take the picture from here. This one you can actually set when it must take pictures as well. You can program it. But if you have something like this, then you don't have to touch the camera when you press the button. So when you take your picture, we are going to work with long exposures like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or so. And if you press the camera down, you move the camera a little, and that's going to give you camera shake. So if you use the cable release, you're not touching the camera, you just take the picture. Now, you don't have to go buy one if you don't want one. You can do it without that for a very little simple cool trick called the self timer. So you just turn your self timer on like 2 or 10 seconds. 2 seconds makes it very nice because it's very quick, especially on the Canon PowerShot, very quick. Just choose 2 seconds. I'll show it to you soon. Just turn it on, press the shutter, and voila, you take your picture. Okay, now I said we're going to work with very long exposure. So when you get to the settings side of what we're going to do, you can do this on any mode on your camera. You can be in TV, in AV, in manual. It really doesn't matter how you set this. But for instance, say you now go to TV on the camera. Now, TV stands for time value, or your shutter priority. This is where we now set the amount of time that we want. So for instance, say we are doing car trails, and I want the amount of time that the shutter must be open to record the movement of the cars driving by. I want to give the camera 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Then I just set it to 10 seconds or 5 seconds. You'll notice the camera will automatically adjust the aperture for you. Now, something very important with this is that normally in previous episodes, so if you haven't watched my episodes yet on shutter and aperture and ISO, do that now. It's really important that you understand how these things work to properly understand what I'm trying to say when I'm talking about long exposures and stuff like that. In previous episodes, I said your ISO is your best friend, because if you need more light in a very dark maybe area and you want to take a picture but there's not a lot of light, you can use your ISO to allow more light into the camera so you can take that picture. That is right, but then you're taking the picture on the camera. You're not using a tripod. You're literally walking to something, just like click, and you take the picture. But with these type of pictures we do at night, we use the lights that's on. So it's going to be the car coming past, or I'm going to show you another example of a picture I did soon. So you don't need to use a high ISO. You just leave the shutter open for longer. So instead of handheld shooting an image at a 60th of a second, but with an ISO of 1600, you're now going to be ISO 100, but maybe you've got 10 seconds or something, because it's very dark out. You'll soon see when we take a picture of car light trails that because it's very dark, you do have a very long shutter speed. So for ISO, do not increase the ISO unless you really need to. Keep it as low as possible with this. You'll find your images will look a ton better. Okay, so we know the shutter speed. We just set to the amount of time we need for the shot. The aperture will take care of itself unless you are in aperture priority, and then you'll notice the shutter speed changing again. So the settings are really basic. We're going to do it now on the camera when we take the pictures. Then, very important, is your location. Like to say location, location, location. Okay, so you don't just want to go outside, oh, in front of my house, here's a street, put the camera down, zoom, here comes a car, there's your picture. That's just going to be long exposure. It's not going to be an awesome long exposure. So if you want to take good long exposure image or car trail images, just look for a nice location. Maybe you've got a nice cityscape in the background and a nice winding road. Use that. Or where we are going to take a picture now, I'm going to use a bridge. It's just making it a lot more easy with the lights on in the bridge and everything. It just looks a lot better than just taking a piece of road and taking a picture. So just look for a good location. You're going to find it helps a lot to give the image a lot more impact. Now the reason I'm telling you everything here in the studio before we go out is I have taken a bunch of people to this same spot to take pictures, and then usually within 5 minutes all the cars coming by start to think that all the cameras are traffic officers. And then usually the traffic gets very fast, start to go after a few minutes, tuk, 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 and it's not a nice experience. So I'm telling you everything here so that when we get to the location, we can just set up the camera and take some cool pictures. So another picture I want to share with you now before we leave. This image, also a nighttime shot. This wheel, I took this picture in 2010. That's when in Cape Town, that FIFA World Cup and everything. I think that's when they put this wheel up here, or up there at that time. So if you were in Cape Town at that time, you will definitely remember this wheel. So what I did was I went closer to the wheel, right below the wheel, set up the tripod, tilted the camera like this. Now I'm shooting a long exposure of 10 seconds. That wheel is turning around. If I press my shutter button, it will record the movement of that wheel. So you'll just see the wheel spinning. So I thought, okay, it's not really wow. I like the cars, so if I can get the cars and the lines, it will be a cool picture. And that's my result that I got from the shot. So how I achieved that, it was just that I need to get my timing right. So the wheel obviously now stops when people climb onto the ride, and then it starts to go again. The only problem was this ride stopped and started again, very irregular timing. I couldn't wait exactly every time that the wheel will start. So I just sat there, okay, it's starting, took my picture, I just timed it. So I had 10 seconds, and within that 10 seconds, I captured enough of the turning wheel to get the lines and enough of the wheel that's still so I could get the cars as well. So nighttime photography is really very interesting. I'm sure if you drive out, you will have malls which has got nice neon lights you can play around with. You will have car light trails, maybe some nice bridges or winding roads. Maybe signs that are spinning around which has got lights on. There's lots of possibilities the moment you actually start to look for it. So that's why I said your best buddy is going to be your tripod, because you're going to do long exposures. You're going to need to stabilize the camera, and once it's very simple. Just start to set your shutter speed for the amount of time you need to take the shot. You're ready to go. The sky's the limit. You can really create some interesting pictures. Just think out of the box. Like for instance with the wheel, I didn't just record a turning wheel. Boring, it's been done a million times before. I looked for something else in the shot to make it better. And that's when I waited for the wheel to turn and to stop within that 10-second frame. I think I took almost like 10 pictures to time it perfectly, but then I got the shot. So that's what we're going to do now, not the wheel. We are going to capture some light trails. So let's see what we can do. Okay, we're now at the bridge we're going to take pictures at. Hopefully you can see it there. It's a bit tricky shooting at night time, so I've got an LED video panel on there, and then we've got a truck tooting at us. Okay, so for the settings, you can see on the camera I'm set at TV. I've chosen a shutter speed of 5 seconds, and then I've also went here to the exposure compensation and I put it to -1 just to make the image a little bit more darker so that the lines look a lot better. And then I also turn on the self timer, you can see there, to 2 seconds. So basically ISO lowest 80, shutter speed 5 seconds. Hopefully going to get some good cars coming by now. And then 5 seconds, -1 on exposure compensation, ISO 80. That's it. Okay, nou net, is al karre wat kom. Okay, so I'm just going to fire. Hopefully we're going to get the best ones. Here they come. Even got a bike thrown in for good measures, a cyclist. Okay, so camera's thinking a little. And there we've got all our light trails. Okay, let's do another one. Nou net, sal enige karre?
Hulle gaan nou kom die robot het groen verhaal.
Okay. The car's already going a little slower than they should. Okay, so it's going to focus so long. Come on, camera, focus. Go. What's also nice is if you don't get the lights coming from the front, because the white lights blows it out a little bit. It's cool if you only get the red lights from the car's back end. So if you look at this one looks pretty cool. You can see all the light trails. So I can make it even longer if I want to. I can make it 10 seconds if I want to. You can just decide. You'll notice when I focus, the camera automatically chooses f7.1. If you set the camera is starting to flicker, then you know your settings aren't right. You just need to tweak it a little bit. But very simple. TV mode, choose your time and shoot. Just make sure you stabilize your camera on a tripod and that you use a self-time if you're not using a cable release, then you're fine. Let's look at the same settings on the Nikon D3100. Okay, I've now put up the Nikon D3100 and you'll notice the camera is tilted a little. I've angled it just to get a bit more creative with the angle so it looks a bit better. And then the settings, again, you can see here ISO 100, and on this one I've chosen 10 seconds. And you'll notice the camera automatically chooses my aperture. I've turned on the self timer. So let's just see how much cars we're getting. Okay, there's an entire bunch of cars coming soon, so we're just going to wait for them. Annette can show you that as well. Kan julle sien daar, liefie? Okay, so here comes the cars. Hopefully they're not going to be as slow as people walking. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're just letting the camera think for a few seconds to process all that information. And there we've got our light trails. If I zoom in here, because I've got my one camera in front of this one, so I can't really see the screen here. So there we can see all the light trails. Looks very cool. Tricky working like this. Let's just do a quick another one. Bunch of cars coming again. Only 2 cars. That's just poor. not a lot of support from the cars. Let's see. Okay, sometimes I'm gonna let the camera run quickly. Sometimes it actually looks good just to have one car in the image. So let's see, we've got this one car coming. Because I did this image previously and I called it Fast and Furious, and there was only one car coming past and it looked very cool. So sometimes too much cars, again, not the best. Okay, camera's processing again. Okay, let's see here. Again, I actually like the previous one. This one doesn't look that good. Okay, but that is how you do car light trails. Okay, that's all for this week's episode on night photography. Remember, think out of the box. If you just drive around your area, you're definitely going to find some interesting stuff to take pictures of. Just look at what you're seeing, think what you can do with it, and then work out how many seconds you need, set the camera, and then just have fun. Okay, so if you have any photographic questions or camera-related questions, then please send it to askmwest@mwest.co.za, and we will try to answer it for you in a future episode. Then it's that time of the episode again where you need to press that button and get lots more people watching so that we can grow this series to be totally awesome. Okay, so click the subscribe button, and then next week's episode is going to be on using your flash on the Canon PowerShot. We're going to do the Nikon D3100 or an SLR camera in a future episode, We're only focusing on the Canon PowerShot in next week, but we are going to talk about using your flash. So see you in next week's episode. Bye.